Hello and welcome to F the Noise podcast with your host Lauren Fiorenza Gill. It is so great to have you guys here. Welcome if you're new. Welcome to the cancer community that we have built, and welcome back if you are an existing listener. If you're already part of the cancer community, it's great to have you back. And I feel like we're family at this point. I feel like we're a cancer community family, and it's just great to have you all here listening. So thank you for tuning in. So if you didn't already know, it is September, which is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. And if you have listened to any of my previous podcasts, you'll know that I got diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a type of blood cancer. Now, there are many different types of blood cancers, but my one specifically was Hodgkin's lymphoma. You also have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and many more. But in today's podcast, we're going to talk about the overall topic of how do I support a loved one with cancer? So like I say, you could be a family member, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whoever you are and whoever you know with cancer. I really want to share my experience, my personal experience of things that my loved ones did for me that I really found helpful and that really helped, make my cancer journey a little bit more easier to navigate, or things that were said to me that were reassuring to me, or things that my mum put in place for me and for family visiting me that just made my life easier. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because I feel like there's so many conversations around the individual going through cancer, and there's so many helplines for people and loved ones who are supporting people with cancer. But I really wanted to share my personal experience of being the person, but looking on the other side and looking at the family members and the friends out there that are looking for answers of how best to support someone with cancer. So if you're looking for that help, if you're looking for those tips, this is the episode for you. But before we start, I would be very grateful if you guys could hit that follow button on this F the Noise podcast and rate this podcast. Leave comments. Tell me what you guys think about the topics that we talk about. Tell me if you want to talk about any other topics. I'm all ears and I read every comment, whether it's a TikTok comment on a little podcast clip to the full YouTube podcast on there. Let me know what you guys want to hear. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I will be glad to talk about it. So in true F the Noise podcast style, I'm going to jump right in with tip number 1. Ask the person what they need. So this may sound like a no-brainer, right? It's just like, yeah, of course I'll ask them what they need. You may have already thought about this and you may have already done this and you know what the person needs because you've had that conversation with them. And if you have, well done, because that is an amazing first step. Sometimes what I've found through conversations with other people that have been through cancer or loved ones supporting people with cancer is that people are too nervous to go and have that conversation. And they're like, when is the right time? They've just been told they've got cancer. Is now the right time to ask what you need? Is it too soon? Are they still processing? Where's their mind at? And so to help you with this tip and to help you with asking the right questions, I wanted to share the things that I needed as a person going through that diagnosis, where my mind was at, how I felt going through that, what I actually needed as a patient and someone going through that cancer journey firsthand. And then that will then help aid the questions of what you guys can ask as a loved one, a family member, a friend, a boyfriend, a partner, to the person who's going through cancer. So let's start with the diagnosis stage. How do you know as a loved one of someone going through cancer what someone might need? I'll tell you where my mind was at as a person with cancer at that time. Guys, diagnosis stage was hell. There's no easier way to put it. Diagnosis stage of, do I have an illness that's serious? Is it a common cold? Is it a chest infection? Oh, it's cancer. Though that stage in the whole journey, as you would have heard me speak about in previous episodes, is living hell. It was for me anyway. And I can only speak for myself because I'm just sharing my experience of where my head was at to help you guys know how to best support someone going through it. Might be similar to how I was feeling. I was angry. I straight up was angry. I was angry in the diagnosis stage because I had no answers. I was confused. I was vulnerable. I was lost in myself because I didn't know what my future held. I'm this 25-year-old young woman who has all of her holidays booked for that summer, who has her friend's 30th to go to, who has like family trips and all these beautiful plans like a normal 25-year-old would have. And for that all to just be stripped away with the word cancer and the potential of having that, and then being thrown into the world of blood tests, of scans, of living in hospital, it was just the most surreal thing for me. And it felt like life was moving very fast, but very slow at the same time. And that's what was confusing, you know, one minute you're onto something and you think you found it, and the next minute, you know, after a biopsy, for example, they haven't got the results and you need to go in for another one the week after. And you get so close to then feel so far away when something doesn't go your way. And it's just a very strange world of the unknown. And so for me, that's how I felt during the diagnosis stage. And I didn't feel like I had any stability in my life. And as someone that loves planning ahead, as someone that loves looking forward to things and living life, it just was a scary place to be. And little did I know, after I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, my whole world flipped upside down. I had gone from just going from appointment to appointment, having failed results, having to redo tests, to then, this is what you've got cancer. If anyone is wondering what it feels like to have cancer, or wondering what their world looks like after they've been told, all I can tell you is the best visual reference for this, personally for me, and what I experienced, was that Avril Lavigne music video, I'm With You, where she stood in the middle of the road and there's cars and people just rushing past her, and lights brightly shining, and it's just that whirlwind of, you're stood there and your whole world has turned literally upside down. Your whole world has stopped. Your whole plans have been cancelled and put on hold. You've got to fight something bigger than you ever thought you would fight, and the whole world is moving around you. And it's the most weirdest feeling. I don't know if it was just me, but I kind of had this weird expectation that everyone's world would slow down when mine did, when I was told I had cancer. And it just doesn't happen like that. Like, everyone's life keeps moving, you know, everyone still goes to work, still comes home, eats, sleeps, goes to bed, repeats the routine, and you're stuck, completely stopped in your tracks, in your life. And so even though your plans have cancelled, everyone else is still living their life. And that for me was just like the strangest realization of, oh my God, I feel quite alone. And I feel like no one would really understand what I'm going through, because everyone else is living and I'm not. And I did get FOMO from that, and it was not very nice. And cancer is chaos. Cancer can be the most chaotic thing I think anyone could possibly go through, because there is a world of complete uncertainty. And not just for me going through it as a person, but for my loved ones. Like, my mum gave up her job because we had no idea what was going to happen to me. You know, we didn't know how chemo was going to affect me. And so I really wanted to start with this first tip of how best to support someone going through cancer, which is, as mentioned, ask them what they need. Just that one question will make the person feel like they're seen. Just that one question will just put someone's mind at ease and go, oh, they see that, you know, my life might change a little bit, you know, and then therefore things might change in terms of our relationship and our level of interaction, how much energy I can give and pour into this relationship. Everything might have to slow down for now. And I think that understanding of saying, what can I do for you? Is there anything you need from me? Is there any support? Is such a great first question to ask. Whether you know someone who's been going through cancer for a long time and you've still not had that conversation with them, or whether you know someone that is going through the diagnosis stage and it's looking like it could be cancer, just ask the question. It's not a loaded question. It's a genuine, heartfelt, hey, I see you. How can I help you? You know? And if you're thinking, oh, I don't know how to help them because I'm not in their position, or, oh, I don't know how to help them, I don't want to seem too keen or eager to, you know, say that it's going to be cancer even though they're not diagnosed yet, you know, don't worry about that. I can give you some tips and some things that help me when people ask me that question. So when, you know, people ask me and my mum that question of how can I help you, a big thing that helped me was just lifts, like car lifts. I had a car at the time, but I couldn't drive it because of all these appointments and not knowing if I'll be too lethargic one day. It was just too dangerous to then be able to drive with no one insured. And my mum didn't have a car. So just having the comfort of a loved one say, hey, I know you can't drive because you're going through this. And to my mum, hey, I know you don't have a car. I have a car. Can I help give you lifts? Let me know when and where and I'll be there. That was beyond helpful. And that was my aunties and my mum's friends that helped us do that. And that was just priceless. That helped me be comfortable because I was drained after tests. That helped my mum feel supported because she didn't have to plan travel. It was just a time that we both had to be there, and then she could be fully present with me. And it was just nice to have loved ones that you trust and love and see familiar faces, because it felt normal. I don't know if anyone else who's had cancer can say this, but you do feel like you're in a bubble. As soon as you go through that chemo stage and start your treatment, whether it's fertility or chemo, you feel wrapped up in a bubble because you've gone through the chaos journey of the diagnosis, and then you're allocated a team that is your consultant, your nurse, your regular chemotherapy nurses, and then they become your immediate family. In the meantime, it's like your temporary cancer family, and you know that they are experts to help you get through it. And so you do feel like you're in this like little bubble wrap bubble, cancer bubble, if you like. So to have people from outside give lifts for appointments, and they were loved ones like my aunties or, you know, my friends, it just keeps that normality there as well, which is so important. It makes you feel like, oh yeah, I've got my bubble, but there is a life for me outside of this as well. You know, I do have other people that love and care for me in different ways through offering lifts. Other things that might be of help to someone is, you know, if they can't leave hospital, they haven't got immediate family that can stay with them, or you're not allowed to stay with them, is just dropping off like little care packages, you know, anything that would make them feel comfortable. Like if you know they love a favorite book genre, but they can't go out and get the book because they're too poorly, maybe treat them, get them a little book. Or, you know, if they're just craving something that's like their favorite chocolate, but, you know, the menu in the hospital isn't what they like or something, you know, get them a little chocolate. It doesn't have to be expensive gestures. It just is like, it's just, hey, I've thought of you. What do you need? What can't you get? What can I help you with? And it's just bridging that gap and having that communication. And I'm telling you now, that will just strengthen your bond with the person as well, because it's another level of support. You know, you go through friendships and you're there through the marriages and the friendship time, but to actually be there through their cancer journey will only strengthen your relationship. So that's tip number 1. Ask them what they need. So tip number 2 is being sensitive about keeping in touch. And so let's break down what that even means about being sensitive to keep in touch. And so as I just mentioned, being the person that was going through it, it's a whirlwind. Your world stops. You feel like your life has stopped. You're wrapped in this cancer bubble. Then you have to not only deal with the whole mental block of like, my life has stopped. Emotionally, physically, energetically, everything changes. I remember being in my first round of chemo, not knowing what had hit me. My energy was so drained. I couldn't even give anything. Even a conversation was hard because it was just, I was exhausted. It just knocks the wind out of your sail. Physically, I could barely walk up the stairs, let alone one step. I couldn't even walk outside, and I didn't want to walk outside because I was just extremely tired, to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed on some days, and my mum had to physically lift my body out of bed. And then also emotionally, you have nothing to give after some chemos. Sometimes you are prodded and poked by the needles for the chemotherapy. You've got blood tests to test that your white blood cells are a certain level, your red blood cells. You maybe had a blood transfusion that day. Like, there's so much going on for that individual. Like I say, emotionally, physically, mentally, energetically, that sometimes you don't even have enough to give yourself. And as crazy as that sounds, sometimes you forget to like be present with yourself. You're just literally in survival mode of like, okay, I've got a blood transfusion at this time. I have 2 hours to nap before I have another transfusion. I then have this test, and then I have to go in for an X-ray. It's just a different world that this person is living in. So being sensitive about keeping in touch, I'd say, is so important. And basically what I mean by that is just being sensitive in the sense of knowing that they may not be able to reply as quick as they normally do. They may not be able to take on as much as they could in terms of the relationship or the friendships. So say you're going through something personally, and I want to stress that like whatever the friend and family is going through as well is just as important as the other person going through cancer, because it's their life and it's their individual experience. But in the sense of how best can you support someone going through cancer, being sensitive about keeping in touch is how much can I or should I share with the person going through cancer? Based on what I've just said in terms of energetically, emotionally, physically drained and tired and exhausted on some days, maybe actually oversharing my problems isn't the best time for the conversation, because it's a different relationship right now. Someone's suffering, you're going through your thing. Maybe it's best to lean on someone else that can better support you, because the other person might not give you what you're expected to normally get in terms of support, because they just don't have the capacity to take that on. And that's okay. It doesn't mean keep everything in and hold it in, but there's better places to maybe redirect what you would normally share if it's too overwhelming, or if it's too loaded, or if it's too negative. Maybe it's best to have a look and say, hey, where else is a better place for me to share this information? Because that person going through cancer is probably not the right person at the time. That being said, I had some days where I just wanted normal conversations and I didn't want to talk about cancer. And I was like, please tell me what's going on in your life. Is there anything that you need to tell me about? Is there anything you've been through? And sometimes it was refreshing to hear about other people's problems in life, because you're going through so much. You've got your own baggage and your own problems going through your own cancer journey, that actually sometimes I would just be like, tell me what's going on in your life. Don't even ask me about mine. I want to hear what you're going through. Spill the tea. So this is just, again, guidance in terms of the general relationship that you have with the person, and just, being sensitive to what they're going through and how the relationship might change along the way. And what I will say is the person will come to you if they want you to spill the tea, okay? I think it's important to let the person lead that sort of conversation, and it's the responsibility of the loved one or the friend or the family or the partner to be mindful of not overwhelming that other person with too much negativity and baggage from your own life at that time, just to keep spirits high, because that is all you want. I remember my mum had a rule for any visitor that came to visit me in the ward when I was going through cancer. And I remember one story, she was saying that my auntie and my cousins came, and before they came into the room, they just broke down crying. I think someone had maybe peeped around the corner and seen that I had no hair, something like that. But they basically saw me and they just broke down in tears. Now, I didn't see this because my mum had just one rule, and it was a very simple rule. Do not cry or be negative around Lauren, because she does not need this at the moment. And we only need positive energy to keep the morale up, to keep her mental health stable, to uplift her emotionally because she's had a bad day the day before. If you need to cry, that is okay. And she did say that, but just do it elsewhere. Do it in the cafe with my mum before, do it after. But anyone who steps through that door and comes face to face with me, her one golden rule was do not break down in front of Lauren. And I have to say, Mum, I know you're watching. Thank you for that. It may be something that you actually might struggle with, because you may have a relationship with your loved one where you've been open and transparent and you want to cry in front of them, but have a conversation. I think I was lucky because I had my mum to bridge the visitors and the family and be that communicator, because I didn't have energy to constantly update my family on what I was going through. And so to have a middleman, and that is another tip within this tip, assign someone who can be your voice when you don't have one or when you're too tired, because you don't want to update everyone all at once, or, DM the family chat and have to manage everyone's reply. It's too much. I can't even do it now, to be honest. I'm in 2 friend group chats and 2 family chats, and that is enough for me. Thank you very much. I can't manage too much information at once. And so if I can't do that now and I've had cancer, imagine what it's like when you're going through cancer and you're having to talk to strangers every day, new patients in different wards every day. You have to try and keep the family updated. Just assign one person to be that voice for you, because that is great. And if you're the friend and family member watching and going, God, they don't have that, parent or sibling to, check in on them all the time, maybe you're that person. Maybe that's your opportunity to say, hey, I have an idea of how I can support you. Let me know if you're comfortable with this. But if you want me to update your parents, because maybe they don't have a closer relationship, if you want me to update your friendship groups, just give me your phone and I can update everyone. Or if you're happy for me to do it, I can just tell everyone I'm going to be that voice for you, because I want to be there for you and support you and lift a load off you. Oh my God, that will help them so much. So if you've noticed that they don't have that support system and you're that person, be that person if you can take it on, because it is amazing to have someone be your voice when you feel like you don't even have one for yourself. So just being sensitive around how the relationship's going to change, being sensitive around how best to stay in touch, being aware that maybe they don't have energy to stay in touch, and nominating yourself to be that bridge is amazing. And so those 3 tips are all part of just being aware of the relationship, being sensitive to what the person's going through and being there to support them. And so moving on to tip number 3, this may sound like an obvious one, guys, and you're probably already on this. So if you are, ignore me, but educate yourself. I think education is such a beautiful thing in this instance, because I always go back to the thought of, when you're having a doctor's appointment and you don't really know what's going on, you have a chest infection or maybe you have something wrong with you. And so you go to the doctors to ask, what is wrong with me, right? We can all relate to this in some way, I'm sure. The doctor says, hey, it could be this or it could be that, but they throw out a few words of potential diagnosis. But hands up if you're the first person to go on a medical or NHS website to Google the symptom. I'm the first person that does that. My sister could say there's something wrong with her and she could just tell me what the doctor has said, and it could be complete gibberish. And already I know the side effects, I know the symptoms, I know the treatment plans, I know the stages, I know what everything means, because we're just curious as human beings to better understand things we don't know. So cancer is included in that, right? If your loved one is going through a diagnosis and maybe the word cancer's come, maybe the diagnosis of it could be this, it could be that, and there's a few complex words, medical terms, just educate yourself. Go on the NHS website, even ask the consultant, even ask the hospital if there's a special website that they've got that tells you more about it, because the person going through cancer will probably update you with what they know to an extent. And me being a patient, I Googled everything. Every side effect, every possible outcome, every term. I was literally in my car after every appointment on my phone, going on the NHS website. What does this mean? What does that mean? I need to know, is this serious? Is this not? What does this mean for my life? Can I keep my hair? I was the biggest Google search person in the world when I was being diagnosed myself. But it also would have helped me if other people in my circle had also Googled it or even asked me questions about what does this mean. I know for a fact the people in my close circle did, because I'd just tell them. But I'm an open book, as you probably tell from this podcast. There's no boundaries that we can't talk about when it comes to cancer. But a lot of people aren't. I've spoken to some people that haven't even told people in their circle that they're literally going through chemotherapy and they've got cancer, because they maybe don't have that relationship with the family and friends. B, it's a privacy thing. It's something that they don't want to burden their family with. They want to keep it private and do it themselves and get out the other end. And so this is why it's important for you guys, the loved ones of the person going through it, to just literally educate yourselves on what it is. There's amazing websites like Macmillan. With blood cancer, there's amazing websites like Lymphoma Action. There's Blood Cancer UK. There's just amazing websites with real legit knowledge of what this type of cancer is. And make sure you only go to the official websites. I think going on things like Reddit or community pages, they're great. But I think if you really want to educate yourself with facts and equip yourself with knowledge of how best to support the loved one, and to have an understanding, if they haven't told you already, of what they might be going through, just go on those established websites, do your research, even call up the helpline if you can't find the information you need, and just say, hey, can I talk to you about this? And you can even find on these websites of what I'm doing right now, which is sharing what I found supportive of loved ones on the websites. There's loads of tips on websites and loads of patient stories of them sharing their experience of what helped them the most going through their journey from loved ones and friends and families. There's so much information out there. Don't just rely on the person going through cancer to tell you. Like, pick up that phone, get on those websites and have a read, because it will help you find peace as well of like knowing what's to come. And my final tip of how you can best support a loved one with cancer is support yourselves too. I think it's so easy for a loved one of someone with cancer to sacrifice everything, to give up everything, to give up themselves, to give up their own self-care, their own mental health, to literally dedicate their time to support a loved one with cancer. And I just want to say, you can't help someone unless you help yourself. It really is a thing in life, like we all know, but really important when you are supporting someone with cancer, because their journey is a lot. And in order to best help someone in life, you have to help yourself first. It's so strange to me that after I finished chemotherapy and I'd kind of done the healing journey, even after going into remission in 2021, I still had never had a discussion with my friends and family on how they found the experience, because I was just over the other end and just wanted to move on with my life. But it's still so strange to me now that I didn't have that conversation. And even with some of them, I haven't had that conversation, because part of me hasn't had that conversation with loved ones because I don't want to get upset if they turn around and say, oh my God, like the struggle was intense. Every day was like crying fest at work. And I think part of me doesn't want to talk to all of my friends and family of how they felt when I was going through cancer, because I'm actually scared. Like, I'm scared of knowing the realistic experience that they went through. You know, when I was going through it, like I said, my mum had these rules of visitors of like no crying in front of me, like only positive energy to bring into the ward, and that really helped keep me uplifted. And I'm scared that if I ask a friend and family how they actually truly felt when I was diagnosed with cancer and going through chemo, it's not this like glossy bright vision. Is probably a bit more raw, and I just don't know, after going through it and being the person that went through it, if I can mentally handle that. Even now I'm in remission, I still don't think I can handle that, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit thinking about it, because I don't know how anyone felt when I was going through cancer, because I never asked. And of course, when you go through cancer, it's not the first thing that you think of to ask, because you were literally in fight and flight mode. I know my mum really lent on Macmillan for loads of support. She was saying they were incredible. You know, we had a Macmillan on site of the campus of the hospital that I was being treated on. And I know that she used to just go in there for a coffee. They have like open mornings where you can go. And apparently she lent on them a lot, and not just for, you know, emotional support, but for work support for her, because she gave up her job. And apparently they were just incredible at just helping advise finances, to how to deal with the next step of the next phase of my chemotherapy, of how to deal with me when I'm going through the side effects, and how to be the best support. And I just want to say to those out there who are loved ones of people going through cancer, it's okay not to have the answers of how to know how to support them. You know, the people going through cancer don't even know what the next day holds. They don't even have the answers. And so I just want to reassure anyone listening now who maybe has a partner, a sibling, a daughter, a son, a niece, a nephew going through cancer, that it's okay if you feel lost too, because we all are in this crazy world of cancer. No blueprint. You get your plans for your medication, you get your plans for your chemo, but emotionally, how to deal with it, no one can prepare you for it. And I just really want to say, be kind to yourselves, because it can feel like you're not doing enough. It can feel like you don't have the answers. Maybe you're not the best support system to them because you don't know how to support them. And that's okay, because no one knows the best way of how to support someone truly, unless you just have a conversation, unless you educate yourself, unless you lean on the experts that have seen this situation of someone going through cancer billions of times. There's so many charities out there, if you Google it, of just helplines and people that can support you and people that can just listen. Don't leave any stone unturned being that support system of a loved one with cancer, because whatever you need, whether it's in a charity or a medical professional or even a receptionist just to give you a plan of what's going on, just get the information you need and make sure you guys have the support that you need. Because speaking from someone who had cancer and went through chemo, the support system around the loved one with cancer is everything. It can change their whole experience. And even if it's one individual who is just there day in, day out, or even if it's the one individual that brings them a snack in their chemotherapy time, or that one individual that gave them the lift to that appointment, every single thing helps, and every single thing is never forgotten and is so appreciated. I hope you guys found this podcast helpful in terms of tips on how best to support a loved one with cancer. If you guys have any questions on anything that I've discussed about ways to support a loved one with cancer, or little ideas of what you can do, feel free to leave a comment on this Spotify podcast or DM me on Instagram at @FTheNoise_. And also with this F The Noise cancer community, I really encourage sharing knowledge. So if you guys have anything that you've done, maybe it's a care package and like ideas of little things to put in it, or maybe it's something that I've not mentioned that you've done to support a loved one, please, please, please either leave a comment on the YouTube, DM me, leave a comment on the Spotify podcast, anywhere. Like, share your tips, because I can then share them out and share your stories and your experiences, because that's what this community is about. It's sharing knowledge, not gatekeeping, and just making this F the Noise podcast feel like a home and a safe space for people going through cancer and loved ones who are supporting people with cancer. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the podcast. Don't forget to tell me what you think in the comments below. And I am truly grateful for every single one of you that listens, every single one of you that interacts with the Instagram reels or watches the YouTubes, or even on TikTok. We've got a community building on there, which is so exciting. I love and appreciate you all. Thank you for making F the Noise this beautiful space for sharing knowledge and experience and tips. And don't forget, it's Blood Cancer Awareness Month this September, so see if you can do anything to raise money, maybe like some little charities or a little cake sale or something, because everyone needs help, whether that's donating blood or raising money to support others going through chemo. It all counts. Every little helps, truly. I love you all lots, and I will see you in the next episode. Much love.